Hello everybody, I'm Wen Lawson, and I thought that I would talk to you today, and you, about what it's like to be autistic. And I'm very excited that my friends have joined me. My bears and various other of you have joined in and have come along for today's talk. So thank you. I wanted us to gather here today just to have some time to talk a bit about autism. And I know you're all a bit sleepy, but that's that time of the day. But hopefully it's not going to send you to sleep. Are you ready? Oh, you are a bit quiet. Never mind. So this is a talk that's called What is Autism? And it's really about how, as autistic people, we have brains that are wired a bit differently. Yes, I know you don't have any wires in your brain. You're quite right. No wires in the brain. That's just a metaphor that means the way that our brains process information is a little bit different. I know, completely, totally agree. I know, and you're the same. Yes, you tend to tweet and you tend to bark, and well, you roar, don't you? But whatever we do, as people that are all very different, it's important that we understand one another. Absolutely. Okay, so I wanted to talk a bit about attention, and as you all know, the brain for autistic people means that we tend to run our lives processing things one at a time. Absolutely. No, not multitasking, we're not so good at that. I know you do pretty well, but for me that's not so easy to do unless I'm interested. Yeah, you look really interested, I can tell. Yes. So when you're interested, we can actually do more things with what we're attending to. But if we're not interested, we do really find it a little bit harder. I'll just move this slide on here so that I don't get lost. I know you never get lost, do you? You always know your way. That's right. So if you're not autistic, I know not everybody is. Some people don't manage to make it at all. So if you're not autistic, you're what we call typical. I know it's not particularly a nice word, but neurologically typical, or NT for short, is how we refer to people that are not like us. Okay, anyway, they're pretty good at dividing their attention and noticing several things at once. Whereas, yep, that's right, we're one at a time. Now, if you can divide your interests and notice lots of things, then you can walk and talk. Perhaps you can have, yep, a drink of lemonade and maybe, eat some chips or several things simultaneously. But if you're like us, you're single-minded, you tend to do one thing at a time. That's right, one thing at a time. So why is this important? Well, it's important because in the big world that we're all part of, including you, yes, in the big world that we're all part of, people do several things at once. Queenie, I thought you had a wash earlier. Anyway, and if you can't join them, then it makes life a bit difficult, especially socially. But the good news is for us that when we're involved in something that we're really interested in, we can actually do quite a lot more. Okay, so when people join our interest and they come along and share things with us, we're actually much more enabled and we can function quite a lot differently. Just get your nose out of his bottom. You were focusing on your own a minute ago. That's all right. That's okay. Turn around. Good girl. All right. So as I was saying, the neurologically typical, or NT, individuals have what we call a sensory system that's all joined up. Their senses are all connected and they're all talking to each other. But if you're autistic, sometimes our senses are a bit heightened. So our hearing might be like, oh, it can feel a little bit too loud. Sometimes things can seem too bright. I tend to wear my cap. That's right, I wear my cap for that reason, because then I can filter out a bit of the light, which is important to me. I've also got some colour in my glasses, haven't I? You noticed that earlier. That's right. Now, that's important because well, for me, this red tint actually helps filtering things that are a bit bright for me, which is very useful. Sometimes our sense of taste, sometimes our sense of smell, all of these things can be a little bit different because of how our brains are working than they are for the typical individual who doesn't seem to notice so easily when things are a bit heightened. They can sit in a very noisy room, you've noticed, clubs and pubs and places like this, and not seem to be bothered. And they yell at each other, don't they? I know, we try not to yell. We don't like yelling. And that's fine, but for us as autistic people, those things can be a bit overwhelming. So sometimes, in my pocket, for example, Yep, they're there. I've got earplugs. Sometimes I wear ear defenders even. Yes, you can put your fingers in your ears too. That helps as well. People might look at you like you're a bit strange, but that's because they don't understand. And that's why we need to make talks like this, so we can help them understand. Now, where was I? Okay, we'll just move on a bit past there. The other thing that I've come across amongst the non-autistic people, the neurologically typical NTs for short, is that they can also connect to the things they're feeling all at once. They can feel, I should rephrase that, they can feel full from a meal and feel sad and feel cold and feel a whole heap of things all at the same time, where you and I, again, we tend to do things one at a time. So we might feel one thing. In fact, feeling cold for us might be quite unusual. You know, we'll go out in all sorts of weathers just with t-shirts on, and oh yep, I know, and your bottoms. You've got to have your bottoms covered too. So you don't, well, that's all right. You're covered in fur. You don't need to. But for many of us, we have to wear trousers and a top. And sometimes when it's really hot, you know, people just have a t-shirt on. Yep, you've noticed. But for those of us who are really, really hot, sometimes we have long sleeve jumpers on. We don't notice. So our ability to notice differences of temperature changes as well. It's not so regulated. And differences about what we're feeling emotionally is also sometimes a little bit hit and miss with us. So regulating our emotions can take a bit of an effort. I know this is very important to understand these things, because if people understand it, perhaps they'll be more patient with us, hey? Yeah? Oh, you do agree. I was beginning to wonder, you've been very quiet. You haven't said a thing. Back to the cleaning. That's okay. So, why am I talking like this? I'm talking like this because I really want people to understand autism a lot better. It was very exciting on the news the other night, wasn't it, when they found William? Do you remember that? Yes, they did. They found him after 3 days out in the very cold weather. They found him, and what did they do? They played Thomas the Tank Engine music for him. They lit fires to try and draw him closer. They did things that were very, very focused on William's needs. Now that's really important, because all being very, very different, sometimes our individual needs can get lost. All right, well, so I might leave it there for now. Is everybody happy with that? Do we feel like we've got a bit more understanding of autistic people, as in single-focused, maybe not so connected so easily to other things, and needing to operate via our interests to help connect us? Is that okay? Alrighty, thank you. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining me today. I hope that you've learnt some things from this talk, and I'm very excited about the next one that will come up, so keep an eye out. That's not a literal thing. We don't want you to take your eyes out. That just means keep a lookout, keep watch for when that next talk will be. Thank you.